All right, we are out here with Riley. I wanted to go over what we covered the other day when we messed up her video. Same thing with Ruby. We were just fine tuning her get into heel position. She's doing great with place, which is the other skill that we introduced this week to our new friends in the partner program. Oops, I dropped that one. Perfect. And we're gonna go ahead and start to add some movement. So we'll talk about this in group class, but real quick, we're just gonna see where she's at. I think she's doing a little bit better with that get into heel exercise. So we're gonna just start from the bottom and use a food lure to get her there. Good girl. Very nice. So she is a little bit far out. So we're just going to work on getting her to, so she's a little bit far out, but that's also because my food lure is out there. So I'm going to reset her a little bit and see if I can focus on, and this is really more nitpicky than anything else. That was really brilliant. It looks fine. So I'm going to catch her here and I'm going to make sure, and I find that with little dogs, they tend to kind of avoid, more so than I see it with big dogs, right? With big dogs, the problem I see with this skill is that they tend to have the tendency to want to come out in front of our body and their hind ends kind of start to rotate. With little dogs, I see that they kind of almost have a deference to our feet. And this is just a theory, but I do find that little dogs have a harder time being right next to our feet, and they're a little bit more sensitive or aware of spatial pressure with our feet. So that could be it. I know that if I had a little dog, I would be stepping on them all the time. So I don't know if that's kind of a thing. So she looks like she's kind of just purposely almost like kind of getting some space. There we go. So I'm just going to work on using my food lure, and I'm going to kind of forego, the rest of the skill to just work on getting her comfortable coming in a little bit tighter to my body. Good. Perfect. I'm going to feed here. I'm going to pull her up a little bit more. Oops, see how she kind of sidestepped. I'm going to see if I can back her up. Whoop. Yep. So we just restart. Perfect. So I'm going to bring her back here. Good. I'm going to feed her. Bring her up. Good. Bring her up a little bit more. Yeah. Good. Whoop. Where are you going? Where are you going? Whoops. Oh, well. Then we reset. Hello. Good girl. You. Good. Whoops. Hello. Oh, no. Do you have butterflies in your brain today? Untangle you. Where are you going? No one's here. Perfect. Yoop. Good. So she's still, back her up a little bit. Whoop. I'm going to reset. So I'm going to start to get a little bit picky. There we go. About feeding her. Good, unless she's there. So she's going to have to try a little bit harder. Good girl. Good. Good girl. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Perfect. So I would work on that with her. We kind of did the same thing the other day. Actually, I think we ended up getting her position a little bit better, and I wasn't focusing so much on getting her closer. But anyway, I would work on not necessarily focusing on getting her into the sit and using the implied stay just yet. I would work on just capturing her, getting her in close. Good girl. And once you get that pretty good, then you can put it back together. Good girl. So right here, this is exactly where we want you. So I'm going to feed. Good girl. Okay, perfect. So the next thing we're going to talk about is introducing tactile cues, which Riley and Cassian will have a little bit of an edge on that as well, because we tend to use it in school. As we do place to play and all the other stuff, we're using a lot of leash to help reinforce our commands. So a tactile cue, and this is going to be on the online learning portal in the communication lesson. So there's a hierarchy of signals that we use to communicate with our dogs. We have verbal communication, and that's the one that we want to use. That's the one that we as humans are most comfortable using. Then we have visual cues. So these are cues or communication that your dogs can see. So if you had something like that and something like that. Good. Okay. Good girl. for your down and sit command. That's a command that she's looking at you and communicating. And then we have tactile cues, which are communications that your dogs can feel. And dogs generally perceive tactile communications best, whereas we humans tend to perceive verbal communication best. Our dogs perceive tactile communication between dog and human best. So we're going to kind of use that to bridge the gap. Tactile commands or tactile cues are very helpful for certain environments. So situations where your dog may blow you off on just a verbal command, whether the environment's just too loud or too distracting, tactile cues are helpful in those situations. It kind of cuts through the noise because, again, we as humans tend to be like Charlie Brown's teacher to our dogs at times. And we're just these beings that make a lot of noise, and sometimes that noise is helpful or important to listen to and equals good things, and sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it's meaningless. So we tend to just kind of have that wah 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 effect on our dogs sometimes, and they learn to kind of tune us out. So having a command that you can use that they can feel will typically override their ability to kind of ignore you in that situation. We also use tactile cues to replace the food pressure when we're teaching skills. So when we were using the no reward marker, or when we're introducing the no reward marker in a new behavior, and I'm just going to toss some treats while I'm talking so she doesn't get too bored. We were using food to get them back into the position that they were in. And we want to like step away from that as quickly as we can, because sometimes dogs can become really reliant on that food. So for instance, in the get into heel exercise, that's a new skill that she's like in progress with. And right now when she makes a mistake, we're kind of using food to get her back there, right? So once she's at a point where she knows she's more familiar with that position, we're going to want to stop using food to get her there, because she's going to be more likely to actually break that position to make the food get back in the picture. So we want to step away from there. And the leash is also something that our dogs are going to generally look to avoid when we do it in a very consistent, specific way, which we call the recipe. So they're not looking to avoid it because it's painful or it's uncomfortable in any way. It's really just kind of annoying, and it's not what they'd prefer. They're trying to get to the part where they get the reinforcement, right? So this helps make the behavior way more clear, where when you make a mistake, you feel this pressure. When you get it right, rewards happen, and that makes it more clear, versus when you make a mistake, the reward kind of comes into the picture, but you don't necessarily get it right away. So that can become unclear. So we're going to introduce a pressure sit and a pressure down, or the tactile cue for sit and down, right? So the first one, like I said, she's probably got both of these already because we use these during school to help when we're doing training sessions and whatnot, and she's been in school for a while now. And the tactile cue for sit is going to be a slight upwards pressure. Most dogs will actually offer the SIT behavior anytime there's a question of, hey, you look like you're expectantly looking at me and you want me to do something. And I call that the rutabaga experiment. So if you say anything in the world to your dog and you say, hey, Riley, rutabaga, they're going to most likely offer, good, okay. They're going to most likely offer sit. So when I apply this random slight upwards pressure and I look at her expectantly, she's most likely going to get the right answer. And it's a little bit different with down. We might not see that happen as quickly with down, but for sit, it's usually pretty easy. So slight upwards pressure, very slight, just enough to where she's like, oh, I feel that, good. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to fix her here, a little upwards pressure. I'm going to step into her. Whoops. That pressure is going to go on and stay on until she's back into that sit. Boom. And the moment her little booty hits the floor, I'm going to release the pressure. So as soon as she's correct, the very first thing that I want to do is release the pressure. Think about the leash as another way of we're communicating with her. We're using tactile communication. So I'm talking to her with the leash. So when pressure is applied, that means she needs to change or fix something. So the first thing that's going to happen when she becomes correct is I'm going to tell her she's correct with the leash, and then I can go ahead and tell her she's correct with my good reward marker as well. I'm going to reset her. All right, slight upwards pressure. Good girl. So I'm going to fix her here where she went into that down. I'm going to apply a slight upwards pressure until she is in that SIT, and I try to kind of, good. Okay, perfect. I try to keep that pressure, you know, she has a tendency when she breaks to kind of start scootling around. So if I can, I'm going to try to keep, I'm going to imagine when that pressure applies that there's like a rope attached to the floor, like an anchor drops as soon as I put that pressure on. So if she goes this way, that way, or whatever, she kind of is more compelled to come back to where she was when she broke. So I'm going to release her, or actually reset her, I mean. Doing circles. Good. First thing that's going to happen, release the pressure. So I kind of like dramatically drop the leash. And then we're going to say, good. Okay. And now we can use this same pressure. She understands how to respond to that slight upwards pressure. We are pretty confident with that at this point. Okay. So now we can start to use it with our no reward marker. One quick note I want to mention right here, because I just noticed it and had a thought. It's some potential thing happening here. Obviously, with the training that she's had already with place and through puppy, we've rewarded her for settling a lot. That's something that we've spent time doing out and about and on place. So it's likely that she's going to go into a sit and then go, hey, you like sit, but you seem to really like when I go into a down. So that's actually a good thing to see. I prefer to fix it though. If I've said the command SIT, I'm going to fix it if she goes into a DOWN. And then another little side note, although she has what we call a really nice square sit. Okay. Her body conformationally looks very nice in that sit. It doesn't look like she's got some, you know, issue where her spine and hips are not lining up, and that could potentially be uncomfortable for her. But another thing I want to kind of be like mindful of is dogs are not all dogs find the sitting position to be a comfortable position for them. It's not natural for all breeds of dog. So she did look quite square in that sit, but you can tell some dogs when their hips are pointed out, or they tend to be like in a shifted sit, or if they're picking up their front feet, that can all be signs of that being an uncomfortable position for them. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's something anatomically wrong with them, but it can mean that. So keep in mind as you're working with sits that 30 seconds to a minute is really tops for what we want our dogs to maintain that sitting position for. So we're going to introduce the tactile cue for DOWN now. So I'm going to do the same procedure. I can start her off in a sitting position to make it easier, but I am inclined to try it out in a standing position just to see if she's got clarity there. I prefer a dog to understand that. She's going to offer it, I think. You're so smart. You just want to be right all the time. I know. But yeah, I want to make sure my dog can go into that position. Good girl. Yay. I can love you. Good. Good. Yay. We're just working on that jumping just a little bit. Good girl. With little dogs, it's kind of very good shake. Good. Hi. Good. Good girl. Perfect. All right. Slight downwards pressure. Very good. Nice. I'm releasing her with my clicker. The clicker is a fantastic tool to use when we're acquiring a new behavior. I like to use my clicker as much as possible to release my dog from a behavior that they are learning. But this is most likely going to be a behavior we want to use a release word with after she's got it in the bag. The clicker is going to create very excited, high energy, motivated behavior responses. But if you're trying to work on having your dog hold a really stable down while exciting things are happening, that's not necessarily the energy you want to instill in that behavior. So the clicker is going to be something we kind of fade out of that. But for now, we want to use it. Good job. So she's responding wonderfully to that slight upwards pressure and that slight downwards pressure for sits and downs. We're going to start to use it in her heel position as well when she's got a little bit more. And again, If you're fine with her holding sit like a foot and a half out, that's totally fine. I figured we could kind of fine tune it, and because this is the stage where we would, while we're still kind of in that acquisition phase, we can really, I think too, because her body's actually quite long. She's a little dog, but her body is actually long. So when we go to do this, we may need to like actually take another step forward. Boop. There. To straighten her. That time she kind of came out straight. But I noticed sometimes she'll like turn. She'll like come back here and she'll turn, which like right there, if I try to bring her forward here, she's going to be a little bit crooked just because of how long she is. So if you notice that happening and she's kind of at a diagonal, take that extra step forward. I'm going to do one more with her. Doo-doo-doo. Girl. Yeah, see how she almost needs like 2 steps, perfect, to get her like straight again. So hopefully that's actually a helpful little, yes, that's a perfect get into heel. Good girl, nice. I'm gonna use my clicker, especially if I find like a really nice perfect wrap. That's a really great time to use your clicker. It's kind of like a camera taking a picture. Her brain's gonna remember that much better. She's much more likely to offer that perfect behavior again if we're using our clicker. So she's doing great with this. Good job, Riley.